Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. After the busy dev season is over, it is now time to have a look at the suggestions passed to the developers. In this video, we'll be having a look at the mechanics part of it, and also a few extras too. As always, if you enjoy this content, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and let's get into it. The first suggestion is for a Falklands Island map, which shouldn't be too surprising, I suppose, since it's one of the major conflict areas of the 21st century. The Falklands War was a 10-week undeclared war between Argentina and the United Kingdom in 1982 over two British independent territories in the South Atlantic, the Falkland Islands and its territorial dependency, South Georgia, and also South Sandwich Islands. The conflict began on the 2nd of April 1982, when Argentina invaded and occupied the Falklands Islands, followed by the invasion of South Georgia the next day. On the 5th of April, the British government dispatched a naval task force to engage the Argentine Navy and Air Force before making an amphibious assault on the islands. The conflict lasted 74 days and ended with an Argentine surrender on the 14th of June, returning the islands to British control. In total, 649 Argentine military personnel, 255 British, and 3 Falkland Islanders were killed during the hostilities. This conflict is one of the last conflicts which saw waves of attackers bombing objectives and also dogfighting between aircraft. And when it comes to it, the idea is to be able to make an air map out of it, since it would be large, it would be interesting, and could have many unique areas where you could put ground forces and also areas of mountainous regions where you could fight around. The next suggestion is a new decoration, which would be a fluorescent stick. Now, these could be just fluorescent rods, which are any color, generally red, yellow, green, orange, and blue. And usually people would see these as parts of parties, good old rave nights and things like that. But also, at the same time, these are used in the military, and they're used to put on armored vehicles during nighttime training, so therefore you can tell where they are. So therefore you would just stick a glow stick to parts of the vehicle to be able to track it, which is kind of cool. So the idea is just add one to the game. This suggestion is actually really cool. Add an option to highlight shell trajectory or impact in replays. So when viewing replays, following a shell and finding the impact point can be tricky at times. There should be a new control called Highlight Shells, which could be added under the Spectator Camera section to highlight shell trajectories and then their impact points themselves. The way it's seen to be implemented would be a new button that, when pressed, shows the shell trajectory and impact point of the most recently fired shell of the player being spectated. When pressed a second time, shell trajectories and impact points of the most recently fired shell of all players in-game should be shown. And then when pressed a third time, shell highlights would be disabled. Shell trajectories would be shown until a new shell is fired or the system is disabled. An impact indicator would briefly flash for 3 to 5 seconds, similar to the hit marker, before disappearing to signify the shell has landed. Ideally, it would be nice to see this, at least for tanks. However, a trajectory showcase would also be useful for boats and planes, including dropped ordnance. The only problem with a feature like this is if you have a bunch of autocannons around the place, you are just going to screw up the server, but also at the same time, you're going to screw up your own PC. Like, it would be kind of crazy. Other things that would be kind of useful, though, visual showcase of gun ballistics, gauging if you're leading an air target a little bit too much or not, showcasing difficult long-range or stunt shots for videos, such as the Thunder show, so you could kind of show how far it went, and also more easily following a custom battle or tournament via the use of spectator mode, which of course with esports being a slightly larger thing than before in War Thunder, will be a consideration. There is also a suggestion for new roles and also objectives for helicopters in Heli PvE. There are several types of vehicles in War Thunder, all designed for different roles. Planes have fighters, bombers, naval interceptors, attackers, and strike aircraft. Ground vehicles have light tanks, medium tanks, heavy tanks, tank destroyers, and also SPAA. naval as battleships, cruisers, light cruisers, heavy cruisers, etc. Each of the aforementioned vehicle types is able to perform its respective role in the game. As for helicopters, we have scout helicopters, utility helicopters, and attack helicopters. Despite this, these helicopters are all confined to performing the role of an attack helicopter. In Heli PvE matches, this leaves less capable helicopters with little to nothing to do, as many of the objectives are completed before they can even reach them. So currently, when it comes to PvE objectives, you have destroying convoys, bases, attacker bombers, and also objectives. There could also be other objectives, such as cargo transport, which would help out, more transport aircrafts, search and rescue, which is rescuing a downed pilot, troop transport, therefore you could take certain troops to certain different areas, scouting reconnaissance, so locating targets in a specific sector, anti-ship warfare, so you could bring along torpedoes or depth charges, and this would mean that you would have a bunch of different stuff which is more designed for vehicles that aren't perfect at just taking out specific targets. Because the issue is, if there is another person on your team which has a vehicle which is just better at dealing with stuff than you are, then you're not really going to be able to do anything. You're not going to be able to actually complete the mission because they're just going to kill everything before you get there. The last suggestion is for vapor effects, specifically the ones that go on aircraft's wings during high G subsonic maneuvers. Therefore, they could add a little bit more cool effects to jets as they go around. Basically, the way that vapor clouds are formed, clouds of water vapor are formed when the air temperature is cooled or dropped to become saturated with water vapor below its dew point, at which moisture condenses to form a visible cloud of microscopic water droplets. When the aircraft's wings produce lift in flight, the air pressure and air temperature over the wings are reduced, making the vapor clouds more likely to form. It's more common to see this phenomenon occur on modern jet fighters capable of pulling higher angles of attack during any subsonic maneuver. Higher AOA means higher lift and distributes a drastically different pressure around the wings. The top of the wing has a more reduction of air pressure at higher AOA, causing a fast cooling and condensation of water vapor. So this could be added on with all of the other effects that we have, especially for jets, which are really cool to see. So hopefully, in the future, it can turn up. That's all the suggestions passed to the developers for this month. Hopefully, we can see some of them added to the game in the future. Look after yourselves. Peace be with you. I'll see you soon. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.